These were the absolute scenes last time world number one Magnus Carlsen sat down and played Gukesh D, who that day was on his Gukesh A game. What an incredible contest, and yes, it's happening again. They're over the board in Zagreb, Croatia, Grand Chess Tour. Gukesh is on a tear, won 2 games in the day already. This is the third and final round of day 2. Rapid chess, Magnus Carlsen has drawn 2. He wants to make his mark here, so he opens with the explosive c4, the English, played by the Norwegian against the Indian in Croatia. We get a reverse Sicilian. Magnus develops the knight, and these are some of the more common moves for black. None of them played here. We get bishop b4, known as the Kramnik-Shirov counterattack, and boy is this opening fun. You can go knight d5, queen c2, g3, Magnus opts for knight f3 here, and Gukesh shatters the pawns. Such a rich opening structure. If you love this game as much as I do, you want to learn this kind of opening system, then check out Lotus Chess in the description. I've been banging on about it for months now. I'm on like a 52-day streak of playing it. No better way to learn openings. Gamifies the whole experience, right? So much fun, and the crushing lines will blow your mind, because not only will it show you great engine moves as you're learning in a fun way, but it'll show you the kind of moves that will crush your opponents based on what they actually play, because it connects to your lead chess, your chess.com, pulls in your games, and constantly gives you the feedback of where you're going wrong. It's incredible. It's released by these guys, Max and Raf, German brothers. They love chess, and look, it's German engineering, right? You know it works. Give it a go. Link down below. Let's crack on with this game, because Magnus captures away from the center. Is he really a grandmaster or a very naughty boy? We now see d6, and Magnus takes a ton of space. This knight rotates around. We know Gukesh loves to play with his ponies. Now the bishop drops back. Magnus, of course, wants to keep that bishop there. This knight develops here, and queen e2, very nice nudgy waiting move, and Gukesh gains space, looking to secure this knight potentially. You could plough boldly forth, but Magnus drops back here with his knight, and a4, one of the best moves, or castles, but no, we get the very stinky pawn to g6, creating a lot of dark squared weaknesses. And look how Magnus pounces. Love this maneuver. It's knight f1. Dad's absolutely ashamed. What are you doing back here? But here's the point. Bishop e6. This one's now had its eyes opened, and it's such a horrible pin to deal with that Gukesh feels the need to kick this one back, retreating all the way to g3 now, and after queen d7, f3, bolsters the center with the bishop and pawn and reveals the point, because after knight h5, going after this one, potentially looking at dark squares, Magnus ignores and jumps forward with this steed here. It's on its way to one of these amazing light squares. Yes, you could pick up the bishops, but you're really helping white there. So Gukesh jumps in here. Don't Botez Gambit. Magnus spots it. He's the world co-blitz champion. What a guy. And b5 looks to crank open some counterplay, but no two ways about it. Knight d5 from Magnus, and he's in control. He's threatening already to go to Forktown, population Gukesh, so we could have seen a sidestep with the king, but what a risky move. But instead we see chops on d5. Magnus can now recapture like this, sets up a wonderful connect 4, only goes and unlocks himself a bowling lesson with Gukesh D. What a lucky guy. And now the best way for black to go is with counterplay. Pawn h5, try and squash the bishop. Rook b8's quite good, but instead we see knight h5, an incredibly slow maneuver. Magnus saves that bishop, and now does he slip on the way to castling? We'll never know. g3 from Magnus, king g7 tucks the king into bed, and now bishop e3. And suddenly, after queen e7, rook g1, the white forces are coming together in an ominous manner. The knight jumps back to f6, pressuring the center. You know, upon f4, well, actually, you're opening the e-file nicely for black. So what should Magnus do? Well, the best move, by far, is castles. There's also rook f1 as a decent idea. Now, you might think this is too dangerous. You know, b4, that kind of thing. Well, in some lines, you slide past, or you go h4 here. And although black can take, open a file, there's a lot of pieces defending the white king. And it's actually the black king that's more in danger. These could become incredibly sensitive once h4 is achieved. But Magnus did not castle queenside. He played the horrendous pawn b4. I mean, that is such an un-Magnus move. Because after takes, the knight finds an outpost here, the file's open for the rook, c6 is on the way. It's pure counterplay for black. Out of nowhere here, I mean, Magnus must be feeling a bit rusty, not quite himself. The nerves of playing Gukesh get into him, because say what you will, he's going to be feeling nervous. He wants to prove himself, having lost the classical game already in Norway chess. Here, he's just allowed, after bishop d3, another inaccuracy, pawn c6. A beautiful bathtub erected by Gukesh. Takes was played, and now the point revealed. d5 for the high five. Kasparov rushes in and gives him one. We do see pawn takes, but look at these knights, hopping like a crazy Kermit the Frog. This pawn's attacked twice now. Magnus covers it here, and yes, you could take the bishop, but Gukesh wants more. He centralizes this cannon, eyeing the lady there. Rook c1's a great move, behind the passed pawn, but now Gukesh whispers, do you even rook lift, bro? He's in incredible shape right now, and he's bringing the heat to the world number one here. Queen f6 on the way. You know, if you go for this kind of bomb cloud action, connect the rooks, it's playable, but queen f6 threatens now these kind of nasty pawn pushes with the pin going on. If you try and save the pawn, what was I looking at here? Some kind of rook move to defend here. Then the knight can actually jump, or you can take the pawn. Possibly in some lines, the knight's jumping here as well, headed for e4. I mean, it really is a dangerous, dangerous position for the white player. Let's run back here. We did not see this king f2 move. Magnus now plays bishop takes on b5 immediately. His pawns look absolutely amazing here, connected, running, but knight d to c3, and Gukesh is bringing the heat on the tactics. The queen is attacked, the bishop is attacked. There's only one move here to stay in the game for white. Can you find it? So Magnus plays bishop c5. Very well done if that one occurred to you. Now the idea is, if you take the queen, remember it was clearly attacked, well then you take the queen here. There's a threat to capture. Best is takes on h2, but then bishop takes, knight's hanging, so let's say knight takes, and then you can start pushing this pawn, and white is actually doing really well. Second one could be running, bishop's very dangerous. There are actually mating ideas. If this one ever takes and the king's driven back, it's really bad. So taking the white queen, no good. What if you take this bishop? Another critical variation. Well, now queen takes here. That knight was defending its brother, and here, how do you save this one? Let's say knight e6. It's white doing well. The pawn is running, the knight's being kicked backwards, etc. So let's run back here. Neither of these moves working. What's best? It's knight takes on b5. Gukesh finds it. We do see this one. He does sack in exchange, but in exchange for Magnus having the rook and two pawns, Gukesh has got two knights and an exposed centralized king. Magnus goes for the mini side bomb cloud, connects the rooks. Knight b6 is fantastic, opens the rook to attack and re-enters this one into the game. Now we see queen d3 covering that weakened pawn, and this is another brilliant only move to keep an equilibrium. Queen e6 from Gukesh on his A game today. He's looking to invade. You could go king g2. Feels like a really natural Magnus-y move. Something must have spooked him. A pawn push, I'm not sure. Rook ge1, also good. Keep an eye on e4. But neither of them played. Magnus goes into the tank. Spends 3 minutes on this next move. An awfully long time when you look at how low they both are, relatively speaking. He plays rook c5. Not a rook lift he's proud of. It's given the double question marks of doom, because whether rook c2, rook c5, this incredible move's now on the way. Pawn e4. And if you capture, well, look at the knight start hopping with a vengeance. The rook's dropping. It's horrible. The king's being ripped open by force. So Magnus checks. You could block with the pawn, but the king steps back. Rook d1 now played. Possibly rook e1 better, but this selected takes on f3, and what a move that is. Gukesh is saying, please take my knight, then I'm going to go check. This is the only move, that's a mate. So it's not really a piece sacrifice when mate is threatened. Magnus now has to defend against that threat, and the best way to do it, rook c2. Black remains a little better, but you're in the game. Not played. If captures, by the way, what's the problem with this? Oh, okay, the rook is crashing through. It's horrible. It's a huge attack. So Magnus plays not rook c2 best, not takes. He plays rook e5. And for some reason, this is only given a single question mark, even though it's a gargantuan mistake. Look at the butt flap just falling out of the evaluation bar, because this incredible move can be played. Queen h3, again offering the piece sack. Again, it's immune. You run the king around here, then you pick up the rook after you force the king to the d file, and here's an example of how you win the white queen. Pick your poison, doesn't matter, you lose connection with the queen, it drops off the board, mate soon to follow. So let's run back. You can't touch the knight. Magnus takes on f3. You could crash through on a3 with check, but this is also a great move. The rook is attacked, and what to do? If you try and drop back here, desperately defend against this queen and everything, then you can crash through once more. You're forced backwards here. Now the queen takes, and it's just a massive runaround. Here's one sample line. So many killing variations, as you can imagine. There's just too many pieces in the attack. So we come back here. Magnus desperately tries rook a5, but Gukesh says thank you very much. Snaps that one off the board. Pawn recaptures, and he starts chasing the king. Huge runaround. Sure, you could go rook d2, but anyway, the queen takes here with check. So Magnus steps back. And now love this pony maneuvering by Gukesh. It's absolutely incredible. He first hits the queen. It dives into d7, supporting the passed pawn. And now it enters with a vengeance, threatening mate in 1. So rook d2 covers, hits the queen. Check, of course. King f2 only square unless you are going to intercept the rook. But that's terrible. But now check is beautiful. Because if you capture the knight, your rook is dropping with check. So king e2 was played, and now the final incredible knight move in this tour, knight e5. You're forking queen and pawn. I spoke too soon, not the final move. It now snaps off that pawn. It's been all over the board, truly remarkable. Queen e4, rook takes on a5, and we see resigns from Magnus Carlsen. Because if you try and play something like rook d1, right, get rid of that pesky queen. Don't forget, you're an entire knight down at this point. It's hopelessly lost. Well, here's a sample line. You don't even need to collect that a-pawn. Just start creating threats around the king, around the pieces, consolidate your own king position, and then you just start doing some nasty stuff to the white king. Here's one sample line. Cute little tactic to finish. Bye-bye, queenie. There goes the game. This the final position. Gukesh now wins 2 in a row against the world #1. Wow, absolute scenes here. Hope you enjoyed this one, and if you want to see the absolute game of the year 2025, then have a look at the video on screen. Do check out Lotus Chess, link in the description, and I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.